Our first keynote speaker this morning is Clark Dressen. Clark is the Chief Technology Officer of MXD, the Digital Manufacturing and Cybersecurity Institute, which is based up in Chicago. Clark's in Texas. So among his responsibilities at MXD, Clark supports the U.S. Department of Defense and a nearly 300-member ecosystem to drive economic prosperity and support national security by increasing U.S. manufacturing competitiveness and preparing the workforce for the advanced manufacturing jobs of the future. As you can see on your screen, Clark's talk today is going to introduce MXD's vision, his vision for the digital factory of the future, where AI, cybersecurity, data-driven decision-making, and advanced automation converge to redefine manufacturing. So please welcome Clark Dressen.
Hey, thank you so much, Brad. Can you hear me okay, by the way? Want to make sure I'm coming across?
Sounds perfect. Yep, thank you.
Beautiful. Okay, excellent. Well, first off, really like to thank Metal Forming Magazine and the Precision Metal Forming Association for organizing this event and providing me this opportunity to share a little bit about MXD with you. Unfortunately, our CEO, Bernardino Barada, was going to speak. He had a last-minute conflict and actually really interesting opportunity that we're pursuing, so he's not going to be able to present. So he asked me to step in. My background, I have 36 years of experience with Dow Chemical, all in industrial IT, so manufacturing, applying IT tools in there. I retired, took about a year off, and then was ready to kind of keep working. So Bernardino talked me into being a CTO for MXD, and I'm really enjoying myself. And you'll see why as we get into the content. Today, I'm going to share a little bit more about MXD, who we are, what we do, and then provide some insights into some of our projects to highlight how digital tools in cybersecurity, but how that really impacts the factory of the future, and really the factory of today, right? The fact of digital manufacturing today. So with that, let me press on in. So what is MXD, right? MXD is the second oldest of 18 manufacturing USA initiatives, institutes. And so MXD is 11 years old, a little over 11 years old. Each of these institutes is a public-private partnership focused on different yet very specific areas of advanced manufacturing, from lightweight metals to biopharmaceuticals to robotics. And you can see the collection of the different institutes on there. 9 of those, including MXD, are partnered with the Department of War, formerly known as Department of Defense. 7 of these are partnered with Department of Energy, and 2 of these are partnered with the Department of Commerce through NIST. So while we are independent, there is a lot of collaboration and partnership amongst those as well. And really, although each one's unique, we all share the common mission, and that is strengthening the U.S. manufacturing industry. So very targeted on manufacturing, very targeted on the United States, and uplifting companies, not only to help the defense industrial base, but really to enable and empower the entire industrial base in the United States. So MXD, cool logo, right? But what does it stand for? It means manufacturing times digital. And so I mentioned some of the other focus areas for the other institutes. MXD's target, we are the nation's digital manufacturing and cybersecurity institute. So we're the only institute that actually has 2 different missions, being digital tools and then the cybersecurity side of things. So the real mission statement is MXD strengthens national security and economic prosperity by increasing U.S. manufacturing competitiveness through the adoption of digital manufacturing tools and technology. So in partnership with that Department of War, we convene an ecosystem, and I'll talk about what that ecosystem looks like in a minute, but we convene that ecosystem to solve critical manufacturing challenges. So we're looking for the hard things to do. We're looking for the gaps, and finding technology to resolve those gaps. We want to empower a skilled workforce, build skill sets, culture, all those type of things. Then obviously modernize manufacturing supply chains. The center itself is based in Chicago, and we have a 74,000 square foot facility there. And probably the highlight of that, there's a 22,000 square foot factory floor. Factory floor is part showcase, it's part test bed, it's part training and education space. But we have over 10,000 visitors a year experience how advanced manufacturing can improve factory operations and drive business success. We have great meeting spaces to convene folks to come in and talk about common topics, whether they're AR, VR, or cybersecurity, or quantum computing, or whatever the topic is that we need to cover. Great facility, and if you find yourself in the Chicago area, please come by and visit. It's a fantastic way to spend an afternoon. So we talked about the mission, and like I said, for about 11 years, we've delivered this mission by convening that industrial base. So really bringing together our partners to identify and solve the top challenges that manufacturers face in modernizing and securing their operations. We also focus on technology. So we advance technology, innovation, and adoption to deliver resilient and revitalized supply chains. And so this includes, technology projects. We look for opportunities to bring our partners together to create solutions. And at the end of this presentation, I'll actually give you some examples where we've done that. But bringing together solutions to address the problems that were identified. And finally, and you guys probably know this, it's not a surprise to anybody. Technology by itself is worthless, right? Unless you go drive adoption and drive the culture changes needed to do that. So we have an empowering part of our mission that talks about skill development, talks about culture development, training, all the things we need to build the skills necessary to drive the needs of being able to adopt and implement these technologies. All right, so what does our network look like? We don't do this alone. We can't, right? The MXD is actually a small company, about 50 employees. And our entire mission is to bring these organizations together to solve these problems. So we have over 360 members in our network. You can see from the slide there, 23 of those are what we consider top tier, and I'll talk through that. 30% of that organization are actually manufacturers, and we actually we're growing our small and mediums. But the network itself is made up of obviously Department of War personnel who are guiding us and helping us shape. The defense industrial base does a lot of their own manufacturing, right? Whether it's an Army base building energetics, bombs and things that explode, or the Navy building boats and submarines, Air Force, etc. So in addition to that Department of War, the network includes large and small manufacturers. And these are, defense, obviously, but also oil and gas and chemicals, food and beverage, pharma. We have a lot of manufacturers part of that network across all industries. It includes solution providers of all types, so service, selling technology, those type of things. Academics, universities and research institutions, and also other nonprofits that have complementary missions. And we need all those to really be able to execute our mission. So who are some of the top tier members? You'll see we have 23 top tier members. That includes 4 of the 5 top defense suppliers. So you see Boeing and Northrop Grumman and Rolls and RTX, all 4 of the top 5 OEMs in terms of defense suppliers. But you also see, again, Dow and Siemens and DMG Mori and Abbott. So again, you see across that manufacturing and supplier network, right, of being able to bring those together. And these companies have a tremendous value, right? I mean, they obviously get a lot out of this, and they bring things to the table. And again, you can see our tier 2. We've got a great collection of service providers and other manufacturers. But I think one of the main reasons that we see the top tier members continue to join is they actually also get access to our list of tier 3 members. And I am by no means going to read through this slide, but we have a very rich community of tier 3 members. And you can see small and mid-sized manufacturers and solution providers and academic institutions. And so to me, this really is the heart of the U.S. manufacturing industry. And we'll talk a little bit more about what some of the challenges are there. But these partners, like I said, are really helping drive the problem spaces, the gaps, and really helping us find those opportunities we can go apply digital technologies in. So one quick side note, a little bit of a commercial here. I don't know how many folks on the phone are actually representing a small to medium sized company. Um, but we recognize, the large companies obviously have pretty big staffs, right? Focused on innovation, focused on technology, cybersecurity. It's when you get to the smaller companies that it's a challenge, right? You're busy making stuff. You don't have dedicated people, maybe necessarily focused on this. So we want to point out a small and medium manufacturer can actually join MXD for free. There's a sign up process. They actually ask you to do a technology evaluation or a readiness assessment that actually helps us feed our problem solving space. But if you are a small medium manufacturer listening to this presentation and you're seeing some value in, hey, I can actually go access some of these cybersecurity best practices or digital manufacturing best practices, and you're interested, please reach out and we would love to have you join our network and become part of that tier 3 membership. And it is free other than the time to do the survey. So let's talk about manufacturing. So I think the latest estimate was over 240,000 separate manufacturers. And I think 4,000 of those are considered large, right? 4177 on the list there on the right side. Large manufacturers, and that's considered more than 500 employees. So when you think about what's left, right, the in between 500 and less than 20, the largest number of manufacturers are actually the small and mediums. So I think that's like 98% of the total. So 75% of all the manufacturers you see on that list have fewer than 20 employees. So manufacturing in the US gets very small very fast. And again, to all of you in the audience who are listening and you fit into that small or medium sized manufacturer, thank you. I mean, you guys are the heartbeat. You're the foundation of what U.S. manufacturing is all about. Is providing tools, providing equipment and product into that supply chain that then get deployed into the larger manufacturers. I'm learning a lot, right, with working with the big OEMs, the defense OEMs. They can't survive without their tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 manufacturers that are providing that small little part that makes an aircraft fly, or that small little part that makes a tank float. So just thank you. It's a key part. So as a Department of War sponsored institute, we're also tracking through the entire defense industrial base. And that's a subset of this overall industrial base, right? I think there's still about 60,000 manufacturers that really fit the defense manufacturing side of things. And even in that 60,000 manufacturers, it's a similar distribution. So we recognize the challenges, we recognize the opportunity to really go position that for success. So with the thoughts that, a resilient manufacturing base being critical to economic prosperity and national security, you think about what does manufacturing do for the United States? And the thing I love, manufacturing is consistent. Doesn't matter which political party is in power. It doesn't matter, what's happening in the world. We've got to make things, right? And you're seeing that emphasis right now on, hey, we've got to bring manufacturing back to the United States, and that's again, that's great for all of us that are manufacturers. We'd love to see that focus. Manufacturing still contributes 10 cents to every dollar of GDP. It employs nearly 13 million people, and provides a lot of good paying jobs, right, for U.S. citizens. It is the main economic engine for the country. And it's a primary employer in about 500 U.S. counties. I think there's like 3,100 counties total, but in over 500 counties, manufacturing is the primary driver. So it is, it's a pathway to middle class for many, many Americans, right? They depend on that income, they depend on that stability, and again, keeping manufacturing effective and competitive is one of the key things we're focused about. So the progress that we make in addressing the challenges that we see, the gaps, is critical. And again, given how important manufacturing is to the United States. So just to wrap this one up, if you take nothing else, that resilient manufacturing base, it's all about the country's prosperity, it's about the citizens' prosperity, and it's about national security. Very, very critical. So let's talk about some of the challenges. What's happening? What's happening in the industrial base, right? Between 2010 and 2020, the number of manufacturers in the country actually went down by 20,000 manufacturers. And nearly all of those losses were small manufacturers, small and mediums. So that's a bit scary. That's 11% of that lost in the last 10 years. In 2021, manufacturing surpassed all other sectors as the most cyber attacked industry globally, a trend that's continuing. And we know, you see all types of focus on IT, enterprise IT and mail, and the threats that come across there. But the OT, the operational technology of how we run those manufacturing plants, it's a target, and we've got to continue to double down and make sure that we are just as secure on the operational side of things as we are on the IT side of things. And the number of unfilled jobs in manufacturing is close to 500,000 today, and it's projected to rise by nearly 2 million by 2030. And that's because of a retirement projection and an aging industrial population and everything else. So we do have some pretty key challenges that we've got to continue to try and address. All right, so let's talk about advanced manufacturing related to technology, related to digital transformation. So advanced manufacturing, whether you're doing additive manufacturing, 3D printing, to AI-driven factories, to metal forming, and using robotics and data to streamline those processes. Those tools, advanced manufacturing is really revolutionizing industry. It's driving innovation, it's driving productivity gains, but all of that relies on a strong and secure digital foundation. So generating and aggregating data throughout the manufacturing life cycle to make that inform decisions and improve operations. An end-to-end, top-to-bottom approach to really design to production and sustainment, and integrate the entire supply chain from those largest suppliers to our smallest suppliers, so you have visibility and reliability of the supply chain and product security and all those type of things. And data, data security. So making sure that we don't put our nation's assets at risk. A lot of our manufacturing data is intellectual property, right? So how we manufacture the assets that we manufacture with, those are intellectual property, and we've got to make sure that we lay the foundation, and we get the data, and we get the networking, and we get the transparency of information from the shop floor to the top floor and to the operators. But we've got to do it securely, and we've got to do it reliably. So cybersecurity and digital transformation, they've got to go hand in hand in order to protect our supply chains from threats, while we continue to uplift their capabilities through that digital adoption. And so, as an example of how MXD is working to apply technology in these spaces, we've actually, over the 11 years, we've executed over 200 different projects in these areas. So that includes accelerating adoption of model-based engineering, using AI to make informed design decisions, and I'll show you some examples of these here in a little bit with the project slides. Using AI and digital twins to eliminate the supply chain to predict and mitigate risk events, and using vision, IoT, and AI to reduce fatigue-related injuries. Right, fatigue. The number is just astounding. Well, I think it's millions of dollars per week. I think tens of millions of dollars per week. They estimate that fatigue costs manufacturers. And again, MXD is focused on solving those problems that manufacturers face based on this. So let's talk about large manufacturing. we know, again, those tier one companies that I listed, I was with Dow Chemical for 36 years. We certainly fit that criteria. Large manufacturers understand the value of advanced manufacturing, and they're absolutely investing in digital transformation, right? So you can see this slide just talks about where they're investing. So factory automation, data analytics, production scheduling, sensors, cloud, all those great things, right? All part of advanced manufacturing, and you're seeing that 75% increase of what they expect the budget to be on that left hand side. So that's great. I love to see the large manufacturers investing. It's focused on the core technologies that are going to really drive that digital transformation, but they're also realizing they cannot achieve the full benefits of a digital transformation until that entire supply chain forms. And so we recognize this is great. A Rolls Royce or a Dow Chemical or a Boeing, right, can go spend as much as they want in digital transformation and cybersecurity, but they need that support of the larger network. All right, so based on that, we're working with our partners to really go prioritize and focus in on what are the most important technologies. And you'll see some things that seem like pretty basic blocking and tackling, right? Sensors, data analytics, cloud computing up on that right-hand side. But again, when you think about that, again, maybe our large manufacturers have done some things there, but as you dribble down into the small and mediums where you say, hey, if I've got a company of 25 people and those 25 people are focused on keeping the shop floor running and scheduling jobs and getting product out the door, you probably don't have somebody whose full-time job it is to think about how to go apply edge computing or robotics or anything else. So again, it goes back to speak to how can we take these technologies, lay that foundation, and prioritize the ones that are going to have the most impact into our manufacturing base. And so that's where we're spending quite a bit of our time. All right. So what are some of the barriers to digital transformation for those small and mediums? So again, we talked about small and mediums make up about 98% of manufacturing, and they're a critical part of that large manufacturer supply chain. And so when you look at the slide, it's interesting. You say, hey, money is absolutely a gating factor, but it's not the only one. It's not even the most important one, right? A lot of it is just the time, the time to go execute, the shortage of the digital skills and the talent, the culture, right? Embedding this into your work process and managing those work process changes to not only deliver the technology, but get employees to embrace the technology. And I'll give you one example. When I was working with Dow, we introduced an AI project. It was a fascinating project. It was in our ethylene crackers, one of our biggest assets in the company, and it was focused on reliability. And what I found fascinating is that when we even started to introduce that, the reliability organization said, yeah, we've been running these things for 50 years. Who's going to know how to run these things better than us? But by demonstrating some of these AI tools, they started to buy in, and then they became champions to go help drive that transformation and help go drive that adoption. But it's fascinating because it's not necessarily obvious that we need to go do this. But once you start, then you get that buy-in and you get that partnership with your operations and your maintenance teams and really start to get the changes that you need to make this successful. So if you're a large manufacturer and you're not talking to your suppliers about how they're driving manufacturing adoption, you probably need to start. And if you're a small manufacturer, look for the opportunities like MXD where you have free resources that can help you go drive through this, right? So, all right. So in the last few slides I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to cover a few examples of projects. I can't cover them all, obviously, so I'm going to cover a few that I thought best fit what we're talking about today. So this is one example, and again on some of these slides you'll see an example of how MXD operates. So on the bottom left-hand side, you'll see this was a project we actually partnered with Raytheon, with ITI, and Microsoft. And so Raytheon was the primary driver from a manufacturing standpoint of view. And they said, hey, we've got this problem. we've got, we've got production issues that pop up because there was a design time decision. So during design, um, something happened and something got designed poorly that caused an issue production. We won't ask if anybody else has seen that. We'll probably have a lot of hands up, right? But it's a universal problem that happens in all industries and manufacturing processes, right? We have very experienced designers in a lot of cases that have the knowledge. They've made the mistakes, they've learned to fix them, they know how to avoid them. But by the same time, 25% of the workforce is expected to retire in the next decade. So you've got new designers, you got folks that have never learned from that knowledge. So how do you start to incorporate that? How do you capture that such that you don't have to make those same mistakes over and over and over again? So this particular project, Coda, was a project that tried to do that for printed circuit boards. And I know that's different than metal forming, but it's a similar idea that they had a manufacturing process. Those design changes cause problems in the design production down the road. So they applied some AI tools to look at past designs and help educate designers in the front end when they're making decisions and educate them on what those downstream effects could be. So this one was adopted. It was implemented. They built the culture around it and was really considered a strong success by the company. Another good example, and I think I really like to tell this story. This is just over the last few years. This story and the next one both start to talk about some work we did with the Defense Industrial Base. And so this one is the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard. So we spent a lot of time partnering and going to listen to our Department of War counterparts. A lot of these are obviously brownfield facilities. They're old legacy sites with old legacy equipment. And you start talking about digital transformation. You're not just going to go toss out perfectly functional equipment just so you can replace it with equipment that's digitally enabled or smart, right? That makes no sense. So a lot of our defense industrial base, they don't think they can benefit from digital, and it's been a lot of work to educate and to embed some of these ideas into how to change those work processes. So another common challenge is, well, we just don't have enough skilled labor to accomplish all the work we need to do to do that transformation. So we sat down with Portsmouth Naval Shipyard. So it's a good example of how we took a legacy site. They had a workforce challenge, especially in the maintenance, repair, and overhaul of ships. So we sat down with their machine shop and we started talking through what that MRO process looks like. And one of the biggest issues they had was they've got, again, this legacy equipment. So they had scheduling issues, they had machine downtime, they had reliability problems with a lot of their legacy equipment. And so we sat down and we started talking about, hey, we could take this concept of a sensor kit, give you some basic data to drive decision making, right? Make that data available, whether it's temperatures or vibration or understanding their equipment, understanding their problems, but just providing some basic sensor data. And I know this seems, especially for digital transformation, it seems like basic blocking and tackling, and it really is. But it was groundbreaking because this was this legacy equipment that had never been done for before. So we took some sensor kits. We actually developed some basic sensor kits on our own, brought them in, and for the first time allowed them to use some data analytics to improve the scheduling, reduce machine downtime, and drive throughput and innovate and utilization. The impact was significant and provided an immediate ROI. You can see a nice little quote from one of the folks there on site. And shop workforce has been very effective thanks to that. So quick talk about what the sensor kit is, right? The technology doesn't have to be, all that challenging or even expensive. The sensor kit, you can see a picture of it up in the right-hand side, was basically a really simple interface to where we said, hey, let's make sure we can get some basic, temperature, vibration, current draw, viscosity, whatever the need was, right? A very basic sensor kit. It's got 4 analog inputs, 4 digital inputs, nothing fancy, right? But the ability to start collecting some of that data, maybe put up something really simple like a stack light, right? Red, yellow, green of if you start to get outside of a specific characteristic. But it's a self-contained compute device that can gather and analyze that data in real time from manufacturing equipment. So it's a real closed loop approach. It's secure, which had to be, obviously being a DOW site, um, and it's really focused on the solutions that they were having on site, and getting the visibility and the data to the operator to support that digital adoption. So I've got one more example that uses that same sensor kit, but it takes it one step further. So we built on that success, and we started working with Picatinny Arsenal. And Picatinny is interesting because they do manufacture energetics, right? So they are a one of the places that manufactures TNT. So these are critical to munitions, critical to bombs, right? Those explosives. And so, in partnering with Picatinny, they came back and they said, "Hey, we would really like to build a digital twin of our entire facility." And we started talking to them. We said, "Well, you can do that. It's going to be very expensive, right? You don't have the data. It's going to it was a request without a lot of meat behind it. So they take a life of their own sometimes, right? So we started to partner with them and said, hey, there's a lot of reasons that starting with a digital twin of your entire facility may not be completely accurate. How about we start with one process?" And so we focused on the TNT melt pour process. It's a critical element of the manufacture of explosives. It takes a lot of solids and liquids. You're mixing them together, and the process today took a lot of experienced operators, right, who knew just how to get it just right. Hey, it needs a little bit longer, sight, sense, smell, touch, right? How do you know when that point is just right, when the melt pour process is good and your TNT is now effective? So we modeled through this and said, hey, a digital twin would absolutely provide the right real-time monitoring of the process, no matter who was operating the equipment, right? An experienced operator, younger operator. But given this was a U.S. Army project that involved explosives, the expectation was, wow, if we just put this out as build a digital twin for a bomb making process, it was going to be extremely expensive. A, you've got the government tag, and everybody's going to triple their bids, and B, it's explosives, and people are nervous about that. So we put out a bid, partnering with them, and said, hey, we have a partner who is in the food and beverage industry, and they want to manufacture cakes. And it turns out cakes are a lot like making TNT, right? You add the dry, you add the wet, you mix them together. You're measuring conditions throughout that process. And by doing that, we were able to find a vendor that was interested in bidding. It was actually using a digital twin that supports food and beverage today. And we were able to get that process in place and build a digital twin to model what that melt pour process looks like. And now they're working to embed that into their process. And again, that idea of a golden batch about, hey, how does a younger operator be able to manage through that and make sure that that you're within the right operating conditions so that you don't have bad batches, better safety, better efficiency, better productivity and throughput. So just again, a fascinating use of the technology to solve some of those real world problems that they have. A couple more projects just to highlight. Predictive analytics, right? Enabling supply chain visibility was another project that we sponsored. This one was all around thinking about providing visibility and part flow across large supply chain networks. So, obviously, inventory managers rely on delivery dates for maintaining part stock. This particular project helped provide more accurate and reliable estimates on delivery dates across a broad vendor base, getting customized information on supplier details, and really reducing inventory costs while making sure you met those delivery schedules. And this is actually just one of 30 plus projects that we've executed focused specifically on supply chain and making that data available to drive more informed decisions across the supply chain. So this is a key area of focus as we go forward. All right, on cybersecurity, we talked a little bit about it, but we know the cyber threat is real, right? So um, the OT factory floor is a challenge, right? We know that large manufacturers may have staffs focused on doing this, but again, small and mediums can struggle to really understand and know what they need to do in the cyberspace. So we want to highlight that more and more digital data is being driven through that supply chain, and that that threat, they'll go after the weakest link in the supply chain, and I do think that means a lot of the SMMs are at high risk because it's such a critical space for that risk of attack. So one example, um, you think through what the Department of War is doing. They are implementing a tool called CMMC. It's a cybersecurity maturity model. It's a certification. Um, there's a lot of companies that are in process of getting approved uh, and getting audited for the CMC compliance that allows you to do business with the government. But this is one example where one of our partners, Rolls Royce, came through and said, "Hey, look, yeah, we're very comfortable. We're Rolls Royce. We've got a great cybersecurity organization that's focused on our data. However, we think that there's a big opportunity for our tier two, tier three, and tier four members to strengthen their cybersecurity. Could you go put together a program?" So we went and got funding from the Department of War to help support that, and we created a entire program on delivering cybersecurity information to the tier two, tier three, tier four suppliers from Rolls to help with best practices, training, just workshops, all those types of things to really build awareness and support of cybersecurity. It went so well, we then rolled that out to Oshkosh, Boeing, DMG Mori, right? And we're talking with other suppliers as well about extending that. I think we've touched over 20,000 suppliers across those four companies. Some of you on the phone maybe part of that. Maybe if you do business with one of those members, you may have already seen some of this information. But if you're not in the program and are interested, I do want to point out that we have a cyber resource hub, and again, this is part of what you get access to if you decide to become a member. Whether you're preparing for CMC compliance or just want to improve your overall cyber posture, this cyber hub is either free or low cost information if you're a member. So again, another plug for joining the MXD if you're interested. I'm running short on time. I want to get the questions, so I'm going to skip this one. It's in the slide deck if you would like. And I'm just going to touch on one last topic, which is training. So we are hard at work in providing resources and training information to employers and employees. We developed 4 workforce readiness guides, and they are focused on key digital and cybersecurity skills for over 750 different roles in manufacturing. And those guides are free. They are available. They're part of that network. Again, if you're a partner, you have access to those, and you can use them for writing job descriptions, hiring. You can use them for industry recognized certification training, all those type things to go forward. So that is absolutely available. Anyone can engage with the courses. We have an MXD Learning Training Center. There's thousands of free and paid courses that are available from MXD and other third parties, and users can move through those at their own pace. I think there's 300,000 individuals that have already engaged in some of these workforce programs. So it's available and good practice. So with that, let me wrap up with this last slide of just thank you for attending today. I hope this gave you a taste of how digital transformation is really impacting manufacturing. If you're in Chicago, please come see us. We can show you around the factory floor, that 22,000 foot showcase, to show you how to put these advanced manufacturing concepts in place and in practice. And I want to thank you for your time. Thank you again to Metal Forming Magazine and Precision Metal Forming Association for this opportunity. I'm going to turn it back over to Brad, and we'll see if we have any questions and answers.
Clark, thank you so much. Really, really great presentation. A lot going on there at MXD. It's exciting. I'm just learning about it myself, really, what you guys are all up to. I hope our audience found it interesting. We do have a couple minutes for questions, and then we'll launch into our first panel discussion. And really, so this first question from the audience, Clark, is really just a a broad-based general, what is your opinion, your perspective on how the work that you're doing and how, as this technology gets implemented within U.S. manufacturers, how does this help ultimately bring back manufacturing to the United
Yeah, I love it.
States, making us more competitive in the global marketplace?
Sure, that's a great question, and I do think that it's a lot of the reason I came out of retirement. Right, I like this stuff, right? And I think the digital transformation aspects of what can it mean to manufacturing, like anything else, if you pick, pick your iPhone, pick whatever technology you want to pick, if there's not a good use case and a good value case for the technology, then there's really no point in doing it, right? And so you start to think about, you know, you start to think about all the use cases that we have in manufacturing. And when we go, I led an innovation team in Dow. That was the last 5 years I had with Dow. And to me, it was fascinating because you'd go and you could say, hey, we found this great robot. And you'd get very little traction. But when you had somebody that said, hey, we do inspections of confined space entry. Are there any digital tools that can help us solve that? Oh, well, yeah, we have a robot that can do, so to me, it was all about finding the opportunity and the gap. So what are the problems? So we have safety issues, right? Whether it's confined space entry was a great one. People working at heights, people, fatigue and all those different type of things working around repetitive motion or machinery, heavy machinery. So safety is one. Quality, right? So fewer bad batches, fewer off spec product, fewer mistakes by human error, all those type of things. Efficiency, productivity. So finding those use cases will make U.S. manufacturing more competitive. It will make us safer. It will make us more able to compete and leapfrog, hopefully, whether it's China, Europe, whoever, right? That we're competing with. What, and again, doesn't even matter industry. Those use cases apply to every industry: oil and gas, chemicals, pharma, food and bev. It's all the same.
Yep. Great. I was interested personally to hear that you've had 300,000 people involved in your training at one point or another.
Yeah.
That's a huge number. Are those mostly with the bigger members, I would imagine?
Some, although there's a lot of programs that are just out there and available that, and again, that learn, the MXD Learn Virtual Training Center. And it's a lot of people sign up, and then it's not just MXD courses. There's other third parties that provide content as well. So it's a great starting point just to get access to information.
What are some of the key technologies that you see people being trained on to prepare for this digital manufacturing?
Sure. Yeah, I think say the two biggest ones that seem to be attractive. One is, of course, the cyber. Everybody's concerned about cyber, so you see a lot of folks on that. The other one's data. I'm surprised at how many people. So from a data integration, and it makes sense, right? It really is the foundation of a lot of the things we do for digital man. You can't do AI without data. You can't do analytics without data. You can't, so I do see a lot of people, it looks like, starting to say, how do I get that foundation that I can be prepared to go drive those more advanced use cases? Those seem to be the two top ones that get attention.
Excellent. All right, well, Clark, again, thank you so much for the really excellent and thought-provoking presentation. Thank you for stepping in at the last minute. I know.
Happy to do it.
Just called in. So again, thank you for being here. I hope everybody enjoyed that conversation. I know I'm going to try to make sure I visit MXD next time I'm in Chicago at this
great facility. It's right on Goose Island, and right next to the Goose Island Brewery, actually. So you can get a good beer smell.
That's wonderful. All right, thank you, Clark, again.
Thanks so much. You guys have a great rest of your session.
Appreciate it. All right, so now.